Oh, she's coming out now. All members of the committee is present. We'll get started. I want to thank everybody for joining us. And the first order of business tonight is a presentation by Vision Government Solutions, FY 2024 reevaluation. So I don't know, Vinci, am I turning it over to you to introduce the firm? You can head up to the podium and introduce them. And
hello, good evening, council members. I'm the assessor for the town of Bloomfield. I'm here with Sue and Bill from Vision Government Appraisal. We contracted them to undertake our 2024 town-wide reval. They are here to give you a brief information about the process, where we are, and what we can expect. Currently, I've had 2 meetings with them, and we've also mailed out our data mailers to taxpayers already, which is out there. We are having a lot of phone calls and taxpayers reaching out about that. And we are currently going to also have sales verification mailings also going out soon. But Sue, I would hand over to Sue. She would give you more information about the process and what to expect. And if you have any questions, I'm here after that to come out to answer those questions. Come on.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sue Robinson. I'm with Vision Government Solutions. I've been with them for about 24 years now. And Vision has had many decades of experience in revaluation. In fact, we did the Bloomfield revaluation in 2019. So now we are continuing with the 2024 update. Right now, as Vinci said, we have sent out data mailers to property owners of residential improved properties. This is where the property owner gets to take part and give us corrected information or just say it's okay as far as the building data for their property. We are going to be data collecting 2 years worth of sales, qualified sales that have occurred from October 2022 through, these sales are going to go through the end of September in 2024. We are very much at the beginning of the process. We have all of the 2024 sales that have not yet happened yet. So as far as values go, it is way too soon to give you any definitive. The market is saying that the values will be here and so much percentage above or below what they were before. I can tell you they will be going up. They are not unlike any other towns around us that have had revaluations recently. But as far as exact numbers, we have a year of sales yet to go, and things can change. This whole process is reflective of the market. We do not predict. The market itself is what dictates what the values will be. It's our job to analyze the sales and to collect data and make sure that we're doing a good job doing that. As far as this being the beginning of the process, we do have information on our website for answering frequently asked questions regarding revaluation. I've given Vinci some press release information and also a pamphlet that is good for handouts to answer people's questions about the whole process. And we also have some meetings set up, little public sessions at the Senior Center this Friday at noon, at 10:30, and then again the 29th at 5:30. So that's for anybody who wants to come out and listen to, learn about revaluation, ask us questions. That's on the assessor webpage. And I'm sure they made a poster. I'm sure it's probably elsewhere as well. Let's see. So with the data mailers, they're coming back to us in Massachusetts. We'll be keying changes and determining if we need to go out and visit any of those properties based on the information we get back. So we may be doing some data collection of some of the data mailer properties. The assessor's office is going to be collecting data on the new permits that come in over the next year. Let's see. We are starting the preliminary analysis now. We will be field reviewing. Basically, we will have reviewers driving the entire town this spring and into summer, making sure that grading and condition for the properties are consistent. We have the preliminary values on there. We're making sure that is this correct right now? And double checking at value neighborhood delineations and that type of thing. But probably what changes the most during field review would be the overall condition, the depreciation on the house. Whether people have been making improvements, have they put new siding, new windows, or if the property's being let go, that type of thing. A lot happens over a 5-year period. This is the one time when the entire town gets looked at, not just people who have pulled permits. Okay, so field review is going to start later, late winter, early spring. Commercial review will be a little bit later on. What we will be getting for commercial properties would be their income and expense forms. Those are going to the assessor. Those are really, their deadline is always in June, I believe, June 1 for the commercial property owners to return those. That is excellent information, absolutely necessary for valuing commercial properties correctly. So that's going to be going on, over this year. The final sales will get put into the system in early October. We finalize the valuation at that time. Then she's able to review the values. It's actually going to be happening. You'll see it live on your database, I hope. And so we work together as a team. Vision's hired because one assessor's office does not have the manpower and experience to do their job and a revaluation all at the same time. But we do work together as a team. The assessor is the person with the last word on the valuation, on the values for the town. So this will all be wrapping up the analysis in October, and then we're scheduled to have notices go out to the public in mid-November, and then the informal hearing process will then start. That's when, again, we get feedback from people who are questioning the values. We get a lot of people in for hearings that are new to the state, new to home ownership, and it's an education process that we go through and basically describe for them. It's a state mandated process. It happens every 5 years. the values need to be close to the sale values, so we meet all the state and standards for testing to make sure that this is done equitably and so on. So for the most part, the hearings are an educational process for the homeowner. They really are. And that they're actually, glad to know how the process works. They really have, most have no clue how this works, and that's fine. It's not something that anybody does every year. So anyway, so the hearings in November and December, final notices after hearings happen in December. The grand list is then compiled. The real estate is only a portion of that grand list. You also have your business personal property. You've got your motor vehicles, and that's that. If people get their notices or they miss the hearings, they do have the opportunity to make a formal appeal to the Town Board of Appeals. There's a legislative deadline for that written application to get in. You miss it, you've missed the boat. And after that, with the town then has to figure out their budget. And then with the town budget, other monies coming in from wherever, divided by the grand list, then you get to set your mill rate. If the grand list goes up, the mill rate could indeed go down. And that's we have in big bold letters on notices, please do not use the current mill rate to calculate your taxes with a new value. And that's pretty much revaluation.
Thank you. I appreciate your explaining, Sue, the process. What we'll do is we'll open up the floor for committee members first, and then I'll probably be the last one if the question has not been asked by members of the committee. Deputy Mayor Harrington, and then Councilor Murray.
Thank you for your report. I had a question because in Bloomfield, there have been an enormous number of homes that now have solar energy.
Yes.
Will that impact on your review? In other words, will that substantially change one's tax rate?
Most likely, no. We will data collect that usually for inventory purposes. We have not valued solar. One, we don't know, do they own it or do they lease it? There is no way of telling that. So it's a futile operation because if you value it, then you have to credit it because. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councilor Murray.
I was going to ask, is this the one we do every 10 years and every 5 years we do a statistical, or this?
Okay, the last revaluation was the full year. We do it, Connecticut, it's every 5 years. Last one was a full reval. This is the update, but the process, other than the amount of data collection, is exactly the same.
We don't do a statistical anymore. Okay.
It's basically, it's all statistical.
Yeah.
The difference is the amount of data collection you do.
And the other question I have is, you scared a lot of people by saying in the letter you wanted permission to go in the house, and they got all fritzy about that. But I don't believe you actually go in everybody's house. You just want to know if you'd be permitted to go in.
Yes, exactly. It's definitely the owner has the last say on that.
I have told people, probably on Facebook, that they're better off saying, yes, you're invited in, because otherwise people, the evaluator is suspicious that you got everything gold-plated in the house, so.
That's not necessarily the
I'm
case.
sure it is.
Yeah, we understand why people would not may feel uncomfortable.
Any additional questions from?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, I have a few questions. So, you answered one about the field reviewing and making sure that you don't go in anybody's house.
If they will allow us to
If they
do
will,
an
but if they don't,
interior,
it's not mandated.
that is, it's never, ever been mandatory, but to have the complete,
So,
information on quality of finish, that type of thing, it gives us a bigger picture and a better picture of their house. And I would tell you, when it gets time, when hearings come around, please come in my house, is what I hear all the time. So everybody has a different level, different comfort level, depending who's knocking on their door. So.
okay, thank you for that. The second question is, I know some people reached out to me about concerns related to some of the information not being as accurate. And so they were afraid that if they did correct the information that was accurate, if they had, it said they had a 3-bedroom, but they had a 4-bedroom, they were concerned about their potential taxes going up. And I told them that they needed to be as honest as possible with the process, regardless whether their taxes are going to go up or not, because I think it's always good to have that information on record so that if you do decide to sell your home, the realtor or whoever is just going to go based on what is in the GIS system or in our town's information. So how do you determine that you have the most accurate information and that people aren't misleading based on?
My experience with data mailers is people are extremely honest with the data and the data mailer process.
Okay.
That has been my experience. We are, data collecting sales. We're going to be also researching these to the listings and whatever. And corrected information can be seen on the listings, or you see incorrect information from, if it's wrong on the database. But you can also see things where more work has been done on the house, that type of thing. What's extremely important for people to do is make sure they have permits pulled for all their work done, because when they go to sell the house and they have not had permits, that can be a problem. That can kill the sale. You need to be upfront and get all your permits.
Okay. 2 more questions and then we can move on. The second one is you have more questions? Okay. The second thing is the mailer that came out was very, it almost to me looked like spam or junk mail. And so I don't know if we can put better identifiers on there, Fancy, if it's working with India and getting the approvals so that they know that it was coming from the town.
We
Because,
put the town logo.
well, you did it on the paper, but you didn't do it on the outside of the envelope, and it looked at.
We go through a mailing company. We're not going to have, unless we're manually mailing them from the town.
I don't know if we can give envelopes to this firm or whatever the case may be, but I just know I got a bunch of inquiries from people that they almost threw the envelope out because they thought it was not an official piece of document, and then there was no forewarning on the town's website or anything until after the chatter on social media went out. And so if there is a way, and I'm not being critical, I'm just
Right.
letting you know the experience as elected officials who typically
Right.
on the ground in
Okay.
the first
Yeah.
contact outside of you all, is that I've been hearing that envelope was not as, the identifier on the exterior was not identifiable enough, and people thought it was like some junk mail and they may have thrown it in the garbage. So I don't know, when you send out your November information, if we can kind of, I don't know if we want to put something on the website or have India send something out that look out for it this week or whatever
Right,
the
we
case
could
may be,
probably.
so that people know that that's coming.
Okay, we'll make, yes, you are right. We did have that concern in our office as well. So we'll make note of that and see how best we can solve that. Yes.
And then my final question, I know you talked early on about not being able to have numbers, but my fundamental concern is that post-COVID housing numbers are going to be inflated. And so have you seen, not actual numbers, but have you seen in your experience doing these processes that the burden of taxes have shifted from commercial properties to more residential because post-COVID, housing sales and the housing market has been booming. And that's what I'm concerned about. Although our mill rate may go down, the house may be valued at more, so we essentially would get the same amount of money. And I want to know if there's any techniques, Vinci, maybe this is for you, and phasing in if we do see that shift from commercial to residential with all of these apartment buildings. I am very concerned that the burden of taxes, once we get these new numbers, are going to be heavily on working class, middle class families. And they are, I know mine's, we are on a fixed income. And it's becoming more and more tight. And so I don't know what we can do as a council to try to alleviate and forecast that. I know it's all projections right now, it's speculative, but I want to make sure that we're able to kind of phase this in so that the homeowners don't get hit with a big tax bill come next budget season. Well, I want to hear.
It's a little too soon to even talk about phasing right now. Once we have the INEs in, we'll know more about what's going on with the commercial. And we'll see if there is even something to be worried about. I know you're concerned about this. We'll keep our eyes on this and see when we get a better idea of what the numbers are going to be.
I know it's early,
Okay.
but I want us to be, as a body, to be able to plan for that as we go into this budget season and going into next season. We can kind of look at geographical trends, and I know every community is different, but a couple of months ago, or maybe a year ago, it talked about how Greater Hartford was one of the more booming housing markets. And so you see all those trends and those data, you become concerned that when you do this process, that I know you're saying it's early, but you can kind of
It's
see
early.
the
In my experience, okay, on the residential side, I've seen a number of sales, yes, values going up. I've also seen sales where people have overpaid, but my model is nowhere near what they paid for. My model is indicating a value for that particular property with the listing price. So it's confirmation to me that the model is working, because in that case, so the values are not going all the way up to where someone has overpaid for the property.
Aren't the appraisals, aren't they getting appraised? And so the appraised, isn't that the model for us? Because if the appraised value is.
I'm looking at the sale value, and, okay. We don't see their appraisal per se. We will send verifications out, and we have a line item in there. Did you get an appraisal? And they can voluntarily write the appraisal in if they have access to it, that type of thing. But when we're doing our valuation, what we are looking at are the numbers of the value of the property that we have in the system and the sale value. And we use those sale values to calibrate the building and land rates. That is the purpose of the sale price. And our job is to get the values as close as possible in an orderly fashion to the sale prices.
Got it. Deputy Mayor Harrington, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a small question. A number of residents have contacted me about this form, and they're listed as having 2 bathrooms, right? But 2 bathrooms would be a tub, shower, vanity, and toilet. But many of them just have the shower, the vanity, and the toilet, which would be 3/4.
We count 3 fixtures and up as a full bathroom. Consistently, across the board, 3 fixtures and up.
Doesn't matter whether it's a tub or a shower. Yeah,
Okay,
3 fixtures.
okay.
That's all that we hear all the time. We've always, 3 fixtures, you got a full bath.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Is there any more questions? If not, I want to, Councilor Lloyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank you for your question. And then I want to thank you for your clarification as it relates specifically to someone paying out of pocket well over a listing price. So if a property is listed at 250, it appraises for 255, but they paid 300, that's their business. But because I use vision appraisal every day, I kind of understand
Yeah.
what you're saying, but I appreciate the question because the residents want to know that. And so I'm glad that you guys do take consideration to not just looking at the sale, right, a la the clerk's office, but you understand that they may be overinflated as far as what they paid versus what it's worth.
Right, we
And that
look
you-
at, yeah, we
that's
go
excellent.
back and look at the listings.
Right, that's important for the residents to know.
It is, but this conversation, and I apologize, I just want to make sure we also don't get into a housing bubble where a lot of our residents are underwater and we have 2008 all over again. And I want to be very careful. I don't know if that's our role or
The appraisal company, any appraisal is reflective of sales that have already occurred. We're not creating the sales.
Okay.
We're working with sales that have occurred.
So I assume that the homeowner probably got their house appraised so that they know what to list it as.
No,
No?
not all of them.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not all of them.
Okay, I'm sorry, but thank you so much. That's
Okay.
into a rabbit hole, but I just want
We'll be
to,
back again when we are further into the process to give
Good.
you an
Right.
update where we are.
thank you so much for this. I think putting this on the record for the residents, there have been a number of concerns, and I know that you all have the presentation this Friday at 10 o'clock, 10 a.m.
10:30.
10:30, and then you have one at the end of the month at 5 for the folks who work in the
5:30.
evening, 5:30 in the evening. So thank you for that, because I think you were very intentional to make sure that you catch different catchment populations, our seniors who are early birds, and then our working families who are working during the day and may not be able to come in the morning. So thank you for that, and I look forward to this process.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Vinci, and thanks. The next item on the agenda is going to turn it over to our finance director to give an update on our 23-24 audit work plan.
Good evening. So we're making very good progress with the 23-24 audit. As I stated, our goal is to have all the information done and uploaded to CLA's website by the end of February. I'm not 100% sure we will meet that goal. We did have a meeting today in conjunction with our finance staff, as well as Board of Ed staff, and we still are not quite balanced together, our records. There's a goal to have that done by this Friday. However, the person on the Board of Ed side who does it was out today, so that's barring she can meet over the next 3 days. So that's the goal. If we hit that goal, I do believe we'll be able to meet the goal of the end of February. I have both of the audit consultants coming out tomorrow night to meet with me to work on additional items that we can kind of get going on our end and then finalize after Friday. So it's going well. We're plugging along at it. We don't have too many more items. I've uploaded everything that I can think of that will not be changed as a result of the balancing to the Board of Ed. So I've uploaded everything I can at this point. And like I said, I'm just going to be working with the consultants tomorrow night. And my assistant Erica is going to be working with the Board of Ed on the balancing, hopefully Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and get that wrapped up so that we can move forward with the rest. So the goal is still to have CLA come and audit us. I think it's the second week of March. And then hopefully we would be filed by the end of March with OPM, et cetera. That's still the goal. That hasn't changed. Hopefully we can meet it, but I will definitely keep you informed. Counselor McCleary and the mayor had asked that we keep everyone informed as we go along, so I will do that. Does anyone have any questions
Yes,
about that?
I do. And then I'll first go to Counselor Lloyd.
Sure.
And then let her answer her question, ask her questions, and then we'll go.
Just a quick one. So it sounds like I heard you say that your numbers are still not balancing with BOE primarily, but as it relates to the town's information that you've gathered and need to input in a certain fashion, is that pretty much buttoned up?
Everything that we don't think might be affected by any types of adjustments, yes.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yep.
Any other questions from members of the committee before I go? If not, so Debbie, thanks so much for sending out the Counselor Merritt.
I'm sorry, I'm slow.
No, go ahead.
Happens with age. No, do we have any feel for where we're going to be with our reserves at the end of this process? Or is that got to wait for the last number to be posted? I mean, we got surprised.
I mean, we can talk about that when we do the January 24 financials.
Yeah, let's wait to that
I mean,
because I have.
we can
I
talk
have a
about
question
that.
related to that too, because
Yeah.
we have something budgeted that we didn't budget for this year, but I'll get there.
Okay.
So my question related back to the work plan, in the previous year, we were able to see who was responsible for it, which we see that, and then there was a date that was, targeted date that it was due. And then the things that were completed was in green, things that were near completed was in yellow, and things that they projected to be late was in red. Is it possible for us to update that document that the body, the finance committee received of the work plan, what the color coding of the green, yellow, and red, and then the dates that it is expected to be due? I know there are some dates on it, but on some of the others, there are not dates on it that they're supposed to be due, or like, for example, if you needed to do, cash reconciliation, it would say, sign it Debbie, scheduled to be due by March 1st. And then it was in green because it was on target to be completed. Does that make?
Yeah, I have a list. It might not be the exact color coding, but I can play around with it a little bit. But I do have a.
That's what we did last time.
Yeah, I have something similar to that. CLA added a lot of additional requests this year that weren't on that list from last year. So I kind of had to just add them at the bottom with this weird numbering system. I can send you.
Good, because I like how,
can send that
see
to
how
you.
that says financial statements and then trial balance, and it's green, yellow, and when it's supposed to be done, just so that we can track it. And I think that would be helpful for the committee, because I know there were certain things last time that were like barriers, and as the politicians, we were able to kind of help give like resources so that we could remove those barriers so that we would be on time. So anything to help you during this process, let us know, because we want to be very supportive.
Okay.
I hope we can, I understand some of the barriers that's in place, but we hope to, have a big dramatic improvement. And, we're late, but, we are improving from going from November to March, right? That is a huge, significant difference. And so if we can constantly, support you in this effort to make sure that we can get these audits done. I know a big part of that that we talked about is making sure that we're on that one financial management system. So I want to thank you again for your work around Munis with the Board of Education. And I want to thank the Board of Education for their work with you on getting that done. I understand from your update. Is that on here? No, to me, oh, yeah, it is. Well, I'll wait till we get there.
Okay.
About the meeting on Friday. So thank
Yes.
you. Any more questions? Thank you. Thank you so much. Seeing none, we'll go to status and update regarding the pension fund OPEB. And I think this was related to the actuary. Yes. Information that we requested at the last finance committee meeting related to the closed plan and the amount of savings that we would have had versus if we would have closed it 15, 20 years ago versus moving forward, if we were to close it, where would we be in savings, et cetera. And so I know you've sent over some charts with some recommendations in it, things that are feasible and things that you don't see as feasible. So I'll turn it over to you to do the presentation and explain that. India, do you have it to present for the public?
It's a one-page. I'm going to start with this.
Do we have that in our packet? No. Do not have that in our packet. Oh, yes, we do. This second here is at the end. This one right here.
Yeah.
I don't have it.
It's in the other version. It's a separate document.
Oh, so this
So
one,
it's in,
second page of this?
yep, it's the second page of that.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, perfect. You have the floor.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me tonight. My name is Richard Sitch. I'm the actuary for the pension and OPEB plans for the town of Bloomfield. Also with me is Chris Monroe. I've asked him to join us. We basically had two follow-up items. One was to do a cost estimate, as we describe it, to say what would the plan have looked like? How much money would have been saved by closing off the plan roughly 20 years ago? And also to look at the benefits that are being provided for Medicare, and that's Chris's expertise. He's an employee benefit specialist, so I'm going to start going through the cost estimates, field any questions on the cost estimates, then I'll turn it over to Chris. So what you're looking in front of you is we focused on the Board of Ed, and we looked at the liabilities that we generate for each of the plans. The first section is the pension plan. The second section is the post-retirement medical, or what we refer to as the OPEB plan. If we removed anybody hired after January 1, 2002, so if the plan was closed off roughly 20 years ago, on the pension plan, the Board of Ed liability would drop. You can see the change column, actual accrued liability. The Board of Ed liability would have dropped roughly $17.9 million if the plan was closed off 20 years ago. So that's just to give you some sense of if, and I'm just going to just illustratively, if you close off the plan going forward, today's number is zero savings, because if you're closing it off to people who aren't hired, you're not affecting your liability. However, it builds on itself over time, and in this particular circumstance, the liability would be $17.9 million lower for the pension plan. If the post-retirement medical plan was also closed off at that time for Board of Ed, that's the second section or second columns, the liability for the post-retirement medical plan would have dropped roughly $15.4 million. So in the aggregate, if both plans were closed off 20 years ago, liabilities would have dropped roughly $33 million. Big numbers.
This, can I say? This doesn't take into account the fact if we closed out the plan, we would not have paid employees much more for their own investing the money themselves. So that doesn't go into these numbers at all.
No, the salaries would be based on market rate of what the industry is calling for. You don't pay them more because you closed the pension plan in the OPEB. You go based on the market study of what the position is going. So if you're gonna hire an HR director, you're gonna look at.
No. We ended up paying people for getting their own retirement plan.
No, you just do a defined contribution for.
So I believe what Councilor Merritt is saying is that in lieu of.
Oh, your pension. Oh, the contribution.
The town basically would contribute 10% of salary.
Okay, yes.
401 plan.
So those numbers we didn't save by closing it out, so.
That would offset some of the savings, correct?
Got it. Yeah, we did it on the town side, so, yeah. Any questions from members of the committee? Should we? Yeah. Okay. Can you stick around doing public comment? Because there may be some people in the.
Of course.
From public, they have some questions, so.
Yep.
If you can stick around.
Why don't you ask them now?
I don't want to be accused of breaking following rules, so let's just wait till public comment, please, just for consistency purposes. So any questions related to this? Okay, we can move to the,
Okay, the next exhibit, I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
I don't think we have that.
Do you need hard copies?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Chris Monroe, and I am a Vice President with USI Insurance Services, working in their Employee Benefits Division. Rich had asked me to attend tonight's meeting and provide a little bit of a workup in terms of some observations I had based upon two things. The first being the plan design that's in place today for town and board retirees. And then also to offer some comments around some considerations or a possible path forward when it comes to considerations around changing the current landscape. I did prepare an exhibit that provides an overview of, in essence, what we have today. What I'd like to do is spend a few minutes just walking everybody through how I set the overview up. It is pretty busy, but what I wanted to do was take stock in what we have in place today from a plan design standpoint. And I, in essence, split that out by the town and by the board. So when I look at what we have today, what we offer retirees is a traditional Medicare supplemental plan. On the medical side, that risk is managed by the Hartford. And what you have on the pharmacy side for Board of Ed only is a program in place through Express Scripts. When I think about the plan, I would call it very comprehensive or very robust. The slide, as outlined on the screen, looks at a couple of things. It first takes stock in what Medicare will pay depending upon the service that is received by the retiree. Medicare is that primary payer, and they'll pay a benefit depending upon whether that benefit is tied to a hospitalization, which would fall under Part A Medicare. They will also pay a benefit based upon what is called Part B, which is your traditional out of hospital type services. When you look at Medicare, Medicare always pays in a manner that in many instances the member will have an out-of-pocket expense. The classic example is if you find a retiree who goes into the hospital. Medicare's not going to pay that full bill. They will in essence pay most of it with the exception of roughly a $1,600 deductible. That's where the Hartford supplemental plan comes in. Because what that plan will do is supplement the member's out-of-pocket cost. And in the case of the plans that are offered through Bloomfield, they subsidize it at pretty much 100%. So as much as I'm a retiree under the plan, the first line of defense is going to be Medicare. And then they have that nice secondary line of defense, which is the supplemental plan, which will leave me with no out-of-pocket. And as you work through the exhibit, you'll find that I'm touching upon, hey, what happens if I'm hospitalized? What happens if I find myself needing outpatient care, whether it's an office visit, a specialist visit, an ambulance ride, lab work? I've tried to articulate what Medicare pays, what the supplemental plan pays, and what the member, in this case, the retiree, is expected to pay. And the takeaway is, again, it is a very rich and robust plan. Well, what about on the pharmacy side? It is equally robust if you are a Board of Ed retiree. We have a plan in place through Express Scripts, and essentially that plan would require the member, in this case the retiree, to pay 20% of the prescription drug cost up to an $8,000 out-of-pocket maximum. The only potential concern within that is the $8,000. Asking anybody to pay an $8,000 expense before the plan picks up at 100% is a tall hill to climb. However, the retiree's life gets very easy in 2025 when those out-of-pocket maxes are being lowered to no more than $2,000. So the retirees under that plan will see a very big benefit lift come 2025, where the federal government has essentially said, you can't ask a retiree to pay more than $2,000 in out-of-pocket cost on the pharmacy side. So again, an extremely robust plan if I'm a Board of Ed employee. What about town employees? I had previously shared how robust the plan is from a medical standpoint. The information I gathered seemed to support that there is no drug rider in place on the town side. In essence, retirees have to go out and secure their own individual plan. Medicare requires all retirees have a level of drug coverage. That's commonly referred to as Part D Medicare, and retirees are required to go out and in essence fend for themselves when it comes to getting a Part D plan. But the takeaway from a plan design standpoint is it's a very robust offering. What I then wanted to do is pivot to the cost side of it. When you look at the roughly $250 employees or retirees that are on the plan, you're looking at a present cost basis of about $740,000. When you look at how that breaks down rate-wise, the town is paying, again, for the medical component only, about $240 a month. Because per retiree. And if you look at what that rolls up to, on the town side, it's worth about $400,000 a year. Well, what about when I jump to the Board of Ed side? We have a smaller exposure in that there's around 65 retirees from the Board of Ed on the plan. They have that same $240 obligation on the medical, but they also have that drug rider that comes in at around $195. When you roll that up, you're looking at a total rate of around $430, which drives a cost basis on those 65 people of around $336,000. So again, it is not a cheap plan. A $430 rate is commensurate with the benefits that are afforded under that offering. So that's what I tried to do is, again, take stock in what do we have today. And then I wanted to look at, all right, what are some considerations moving forward? Kudos to the town side in that they've already closed off the liability under that plan. My understanding is that that is in essence a grandfathered group. Any new hires on the town side are not eligible for post-retirement health care. And that's a good thing. I understand that that standard is not in place on the Board of Ed side. I think the initial consideration that I would put forth is a focus on closing that out. To the point Rich made, where there's a lot of money to be saved by limiting that liability, I think the first thing I would put forth is a strategy that targeted closing out that liability on the Board of Ed side. Questions for me on my comments so far?
Councilor Merritt.
Yeah, basically, because Medicare can now, you can get drugs included now and pretty much everything.
Yep.
Businesses or towns or schools don't need to provide OPEB. I think that's the basic logic of it. And it's extremely expensive, and I think I know I'm benefiting from it. My wife was a school employee, and as her husband, I buy insurance today, which is fantastic.
Yep.
I should be quiet, shouldn't I?
Keep going. Just keep going.
I mean, we pay for, I've had some serious operations and aftercare, and it's all covered. If there was something I co-paid, I don't remember it, so.
Yeah, I think this illustration reinforces how there's very little, if any, out-of-pocket cost for the person who needs care under the plan, with the exception of the pharmacy. But that, again, is going to improve in 2020. Everything that I'm talking about when it comes to closing out the liability for new hires, that needs to be achieved at the bargaining table. You're governed by bargaining contracts. That can't be addressed until the next round of negotiations. But I think, the path forward from where I sit is there needs to be an effort put forth to try to limit that liability moving forward. You're not going to take away from people who are currently in a system. I think that would be a bridge too far. But I think for a new hire, I think the stake in the ground is, okay, do we have the capacity to continue to offer post-retirement benefits to somebody who's hired 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now? I think it becomes a question of affordability. I think if it was affordable, everybody would love to extend that, but it just has become over the years, these plans are less than affordable. So from an initial view, I had put forth in my conversation to Rich, there should be some viability around trying to close off that liability. You've done it on the town side. I think it would be a natural extension to try to do it on the board side.
So I have a question. Is it possible for a memo to come from you all with those recommendations so that we can get that to our labor attorney so that they have that in the file for the next rounds of negotiations with these documents, the stuff here. I know that this is for right now.
Yeah.
In this, but, you know, a couple of years out, you can update it, but I just think if we can have that as a recommendation with the rationale so that it's coming from the local experts.
Sure.
About how expensive these are.
Yeah.
And how, if we close the plan, the forecast of how the liability will significantly be impacted and how that relates to saving money for taxpayers. Because one of the things I get worried about is every budget season, one of the fixed costs is that OPEB is increasing, OPEB is increasing. And it is not increasing by a lot, a small number. And this body's done a good job, and previous bodies have done a good job of planning with the OPEB trust fund.
Yeah.
I don't see us being able to contribute to that trust fund to keep up with the growing liability. And I ran some numbers, and a friend helped me run some numbers a couple of months ago. And, you know, from the time I was on the council in 2017 to now, it has significantly, when you look at the CAFA, and you look at that in 17 to now, it is significant. And that's simply because we don't have that closed plan on the Board of Education. And I'm constantly concerned that this budget season, one of the big fixed costs is going to be OPEB.
Yeah.
And it's going to balloon to the fiscal cliff.
And I think the concern that I would share is, okay, what do we know? Well, we know Express Scripts is charging a rate in 2004 of about $195. And typically those rates go up 4 or 5% a year. Well, there's going to be a big change come 2025 where that out-of-pocket max is going to go from $8,000 to $2,000. What type of upward pressure does that put on that rate? Express Scripts is going to sit back and say, listen, we can charge $195 knowing that the retiree is exposed to a liability up to $8,000.
Yep.
We now have a liability that's now going to be capped at $2,000. Does that $195 rate go to $200? I don't think so. Does that $195 rate go to $225, which then has that downward spiral effect of what does it do from an OPEB standpoint?
So that 431.98 may go to like 800 that we.
I don't know if I would say 800.
But a significant higher.
Yeah, what I would say is, and again, if I could look into a crystal ball, I wouldn't be here. If I look into the crystal ball, I think that Medicare supplemental rate from the Hartford is probably not gonna, that needle won't move too much. That's at 237. That's gonna go up a couple bucks, I would argue. I think the uncertainty is on that $195 rate. And then my counsel would be, hey, get to Express Scripts early. Engage them now and say, okay, with everything that we know is coming down the pike in 2025, let's have an early conversation on what we think that might mean to the $195 rate.
Is that the town manager's office? Is that the finance department? Is that you? Is that labor?
Yeah, I think it pivots back to the town, they're working with Express Scripts, they're working through their current consultant. I think it's a very simple call to say, hey, let's try to get a handle on it. And I'm sure that whoever's managing that relationship through the Hartford can drive that discussion.
Well, I would love that discussion to happen very soon because I'm concerned about these numbers. And, I think this body, not this body, but politicians don't look to the future, right? They just worry about what's happening now. And I may not be here 2025.
Yep.
And so whatever I can do, whatever I can do, I am going to be here in 2025. I forgot.
Some of us older folks may be
I thought we
gone.
were going to be in 2024, but it's coming around the corner, and so I think I have to catch myself.
And Ken, I think this is a great idea, and I think any documentation, any letter you can give us would be wonderful.
Sure. Yeah.
Substantiated, because
Yeah.
obviously it's going to be controversial.
Yeah, again, I think we know what's going to unfold. There's no harm in starting to ask the questions now, But that again is kind of around, where the market's going, closing off that liability. I did also consider, all right, what changes could be made to the plan today? What levers could be pulled to try to bring that cost down? And let me start on the board side. One of the comments I made in my notes was, how much pain does the retiree feel when it comes to paying for the plan? Now, if you have a retiree who's not paying anything and it's fully subsidized by the board, well, that retiree is not feeling any pain. If it's a situation where that retiree is paying 50% of a $430 rate or 100% of a $430 rate, that's a lot of pain. So typically in an environment where there's that type of financial pain, what you typically will do is consider putting in alongside the current plan, what's called a Medicare Advantage plan. You're not going to be able to take away what you have today. Those benefits are bargained. And because of that bargaining relationship, they will remain intact. But it is feasible to put in a Medicare Advantage plan. A Medicare Advantage plan is a very popular retiree offering. And why is it popular? You're harnessing federal subsidy dollars to support that plan. In essence, what Medicare is going to say is, hey, Social Security, I will pay you, use as an example, Aetna. I will pay you a monthly subsidy to take the liability on Chris Monroe. And it's going to be a healthy subsidy. So unlike the old days when Chris's hospitalization first came to me, or Chris's outpatient services first came to me, Medicare, I, Medicare, am out of it. I am transferring that liability to you, Aetna, and I'm going to pay you a nice subsidy to do that. What you have found under an Advantage plan is the combination of that subsidy plus is generally healthy enough where that carrier can put forth a lower rate. So when I look at a $431 rate, it's not inconceivable that you would cut that rate in half under a Medicare Advantage plan. Here's the challenge. You can offer it. It's only as good as somebody enrolling in it. And my fear is you can roll out the best Advantage plan out there, but if I'm a Board of Ed retiree who has a fabulous plan now that is only going to get better, and I'm not paying anything for that, well, an Advantage plan, that dog's not going to hunt because it doesn't cost me anything to be on a very great plan. I'm not even considering the Advantage plan. So I don't think that strategy works on the board side. I think it may work on the town side, and I'll tell you why. I opened my conversation by saying it's a great medical plan through the Hartford, but retirees have to fend for themselves on the drug side. Is there value in considering an Advantage plan that has not only a very good medical component to it, but a good pharmacy component to it? You're not going to take a $237 rate and make it $125. But if you take a $237 rate and you make it $180 or $190, that's going to have an impact on the work Rich does. That's going to pay a dividend. The question becomes, can you entice any one of those 140 to jump on the Advantage plan? What you're essentially saying to them is, listen, I will give you a plan. It's an option. It's not going to replace what you have today, but it's an option for you to consider. It prevents you from having to go to the individual market and figure out a drug rider yourself. If you want to enroll in the Advantage plan, then guess what? It's all bundled under one offering. And guess what? If a year from now you don't like it, you can jump back to where you are before. That is a viable strategy. That's a viable strategy. I can talk about an Advantage plan till I'm blue in the face. It's not going to work on the board side. It possibly has some legs on the town side. And again, I don't want to mislead you and think that a $240 rate is going to go to $120, but you might take a $240 rate and bring it down to $180, $190, which would still drive savings from an OPEB standpoint. It would still drive savings from a current cash flow standpoint. If you're paying 100%, I'd much rather pay 100% of a $180 rate than a $240 rate. Here's the one thing that needs to be sourced. There's 140 retirees on the plan. How many eligible retirees waive off? If you said to me that we have 142 retirees, 2 waive off and 140 enroll, it's a viable strategy. If you have 50 people waiving off, then I would be cautious because as much as you might drive some savings, you might also drive some of those folks back onto the plan. which only hurts you from an OPEB. So more due diligence needs to be done on that potential strategy, but I at least didn't want to come here and, not put it out there. I think that becomes an ongoing dialogue when it comes to the viability. I just don't know how many town employees who are eligible but waive off the plan. That would be a key consideration before I move forward on that strategy consideration.
Thank you for that. I appreciate this presentation, and I think the next steps is maybe getting together with the labor attorney and our town attorney to kind of figure out a strategy of what that looks like and start preparing for
Yep.
the next rounds of negotiations, and currently going back to Express Scripts to
Yep.
figure out in 2035 or 2025?
25.
25. See, I thought you said 2035. That's why I was like, I
Yeah,
will
no.
be here.
Yeah.
Or 25.
25.
I'll be here.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that is very key for us to start having those discussions, because we want to make sure we're prepared. So thank you for the presentation. Is there any questions from members of this committee? If not, thank you, and I really, really appreciate the presentation, and thank you so much.
Very good.
Yeah, I think there are some people maybe online or in the audience that may have questions for you. Okay, thank you so much for that. That was a very good, robust discussion. The next is the discussion and status update regarding Munis conversion. We're turning back to Debbie.
Several members from the Board of Ed staff had a meeting on the 16th of February with 2 members from Tyler Munis about the conversion and the migration to Munis. There are several different factors that will have to be handled by a conversion team. And it was explained that the conversion team needs at least 6 weeks for the first pass through a module. So for example, vendors, to set up all the Board of Ed vendors. Once they were given a list from the Board of Ed, it would take approximately 6 weeks for them to do what they have to do to get the conversion. And all the conversions would be uploaded to test or train mode, never to the live production. And then the Board of Ed has to go in and test that and use it and provide comments back to Tyler Munis as to if things need to be changed, fixed, things that aren't working, et cetera. So that's pretty much for each of the different modules of Munis. The goal is to have the Board of Ed migrated over to begin using the financial portion of Munis for July 1st. I can't quite say at this minute in time we're on track for that. I think we had a good, productive meeting, and they did schedule their first training session, which will be on March 6th in the afternoon. They're going to have just some basic Munis 101 navigation training. The plan is that they will have 8 half-day sessions of training per month, starting in March and go all the way till July. Eunice also mentioned that the Board of Ed had requested some on-site visits, on-site training. Those are not included in the current quote that we were given that the town is providing funds for. So they are supposed to get me some estimates, basically, because nobody lives in Connecticut who works for Tyler Munis Support. They're going to be traveling from out of state. So they will only come 3 full days in a row for on-site training. So she was going to put together some numbers for me, like end of June, if someone came for 3 days, and then like beginning of July, if someone came for 3 days, to do like 6 days of on-site training. This would help them with the transition as well of going from their old system to the new system. All of a sudden on July 1st, they'd have a little time the end of June and then a little time the beginning of July to work directly with Munis. So I don't have those numbers yet, but they're going to be getting them to me, and I will certainly pass them along. It's not something we have budgeted for, obviously. So what we have already budgeted for is basically the half-days that I was talking about, over the next several months. And that's about where we're at. I know that Mindy with Tyler was going to come up with more of a timeline once the Board of Ed sits down and starts committing to the training schedule. So far, the only one on the books as of right now is the March 6th, but she did actually just email this afternoon a list of like available dates for the month of March, April, May. So the Board of Ed said they would take a look at that and start narrowing down some more training times.
Thank you, Debbie, for the update. Is there any questions from members of the committee? Councilor Merritt?
Yeah, didn't we already pay Board of Ed something for training in Munis a year or two ago?
Yes, and so there's actually 23 billable training days left
Oh, okay.
in that. And that's going to be split up with these half days. There might be a couple extra days left at the end that we can use for the in-person days, but we have to pay for the in-person days, we have to pay for all their travel. So flights, hotel, rental car, meals, we have to pay for it all for those days that they want to have on-site training. So although we may have a little bit of time left in the bill we've already paid or accounted for, it's not going to pay for travel and all this other stuff. So that's what I'm waiting for estimate.
Quick question. When we did the original contract for this training, this was pre-COVID. This was in 2017. So I don't think virtual, was prevalent back then. No, we did this before 2017, after 2017, 2019. Did we go back and look at the original contract to see, I think this came up a few meetings ago, to determine whether those training sessions were supposed to be in person? Because my understanding is this training was supposed to happen pre-COVID, and I don't know if they were in person or virtual.
We would have still had to pay travel expenses on top of that. So it may indeed have included training in person, but it didn't include any of those other expenses.
Well, I think it's worth it because I think we're spending tons of time doing all of the double entries and reconciliation. And so if we can get the Board of Education on the financial side by July 1 of this year, and whatever it costs is going to save us in the long term. So I don't know what that cost may be. Maybe the town manager and yourself doing budget season, maybe we can figure it out, and maybe fourth quarter transfers. I don't know, but I think it's going to be beneficial to the town to make sure that they have in-person training, so that, like, as you said, they can get it towards the end and towards the back end for the new system. So I fully support that. So I don't know what is needed. If something is needed from this committee, please bring it to us.
I will.
Any additional questions? If not, thank you so much. We'll go. Great job. Thanks, Debbie, so much for keeping this moving. The next item is new business discussion and review and possible action of the library service position. That the town manager, I know there was a request from Councilor Merritt and some other councilors along with the library to move the library 1 position to be filled. And I know we had the hiring freeze. And so I put this on the agenda so that we can move to vote to officially move forward with giving the library that position. And if you had any thoughts or updates regarding this item.
Well, I think I sent both you and Councilor Merritt an email where I forwarded to HR to proceed with that.
Okay, so we don't need a vote, because I know we did a hiring freeze only, and we voted only for police, public works, and building. And so should we move this forward officially, or is it all set?
I mean, I don't think a vote is needed, but
Okay.
because you're on the email that we sent to HR,
Okay.
proceed with it.
Councilor Merritt.
On that subject, there were 2 or 3 part-time, we had this sheet of freeze that were last year that were budgeted but not included but were frozen. And if they're going to maintain services, They're gonna need more than just one, they're still down.
Well, Council Mary, let's just address this one library
Okay,
position.
fine.
And I think, they have half the space that they have with 2 libraries. And so I just think let's just address this one position. And as we get into budget season and the fourth quarter, we can reassess that if we need to. But right now, I'm not comfortable with addressing the part-time. This is only for that one full-time library technician number 1. Oh, library 3, see? So it's perfect. All right, so we don't. So she gave her a higher position than she requested.
No, that's what she requested at 3 and you gave her.
Okay, perfect. Okay. All right, Deputy Mayor Harrington, question?
There's just a concern regarding, thank you, of not elderly services, but senior services.
The book, the at-home sheltered folks who need what is it called?
No, this is in reference to,
Oh, senior services?
yes.
Oh, yeah, I think I talked to the interim town manager about senior services, but I think it's too late to add it to the agenda, but I think she has a temporary position for senior services,
Right now, she does have a temp.
and she's requesting a
At times.
full-time person, right? How do we address that?
Well, she's requesting that she has the temp for 120 days. And after that, she's requesting the permanent replacement for that position.
And that permanent position will come into next budget season, or, because 120 days will get us to, 90 days is 3 months, so we are February, March, April, May, and then,
Aren't they
so,
already?
oh, she's already been in place. So how do we deal with that? Do we bring that up at another?
Well, I'm not sure what your procedures are if a formal vote is,
I did this because we're technically under a hiring freeze. We,
Okay.
at the council, technically voted to do a hiring freeze, so we made a vote. I, in this committee, can't supersede the body of the council. the
Okay.
Full body, so that's why I wanted to officially, although you gave the okay, I wanted to officially vote on this to say that the library had the authority to vote, to
Okay.
fill that one position and move it to council, so that the full council can vote on it, because the council made legislative action by voting to do an official hiring freeze.
okay, I understand.
So that's why I wanted to do it that way, so that
Okay.
we're not circumventing it. Our own moratorium, and because
Okay.
we can't, and I, as one counselor and Counselor Merritt, can't just say, go ahead and do it, because we officially put in our moratorium.
Okay, so tonight you're going to vote on the library and then you're going to add something to another agenda.
Yeah, I would love to add the official senior services one to the next council meeting with this. But we can't do that because we didn't add it to the agenda, so maybe we can request through the next, when they send it out, to put it on the agenda. I don't think it needs to come to finance.
I have a question.
Yes,
Is that every vacant position we have right now that this process has to take?
yes, because we officially, unless it's in the police department, building and land use and economic development, and then the other one was public works.
Okay.
Because we officially voted to do the hiring freeze outside of those 3. So if there is going to be a position, it needs to come to the council for us to move forward with it.
Okay.
And so I would like a motion to move the library 3 position to the full council. Thank you so much. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I have a question
Yes,
also then.
yes.
So if has to go to council, are you saying that it has to go to finance and then go to council?
No,
Yes, it's gotta go to council.
it has to go to council. It could go to council. I prefer it to come so that we can ask Debbie what the budgetary impact is, because she does have some savings in here from the hire freeze. So I want to understand how that's going to impact our bottom line. So,
Because I'm going to write you then tomorrow for a position in the assessor's office.
well, but the IT department, that's different because that's critical services related to like,
Correct. But I'm really not talking about IT at this minute. I'm talking about the assessor. They're under reval. Her assistant is leaving on Friday. So she needs some help in the assessor's office.
So what Councilor Loy?
Can I make a comment?
Yes?
Okay, for positions that are already filled and they are becoming vacated, that would not really fall under the moratorium because it's an active position. So what you're mentioning regarding the
new
assessor's
positions.
office, if it's already filled and it's being vacated, it's already been budgeted for, right?
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's already,
That's, yes,
someone is already performing the role.
yes.
So therefore, that is different than a vacancy at the library where they are seeking a body that they do not currently have. And if that
it's a
money
new
is not
position.
currently in budget, right? It's a new position, it's new money.
Thank
So
you.
there's the difference.
Yeah.
Additionally, with the senior services, she has a temp, someone's being paid currently. And so if that temp replaced a body that was already in budget, right? Then we do need to look and consider giving them a full-time person because it's not new money, it's old money.
I agree. I think the purpose of the moratorium was any new positions that was not in this year's budget or that was vacant, like the 6 positions that we did during the budget season, we put that moratorium on. Anything that was on that list was on a moratorium, and this was one of those, the library 3 position was one of those positions that was on that moratorium list from the extension. So I do agree with Councilor Lloyd and the rest of the body. So it does not necessarily need to come to finance, but this one does. So, any additional questions? Okay, all those in favor, oh,
And I'll discuss it with you later.
okay. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion move to council. India, can we put that on the next council, regular scheduled council meeting? March 11th, thank you. Okay, the next item up for discussion is our discussion of the 2024 financials.
Getting in my steps. Before I present January 2024 financials, I have like an update or a possible correction from the last meeting that we had where we were discussing the grand list and the difference between last year's signed grand list to this year's signed grand list was 2.6%. However, what was budgeted for is more like a 3.3% increase. I didn't realize I had mentioned any names, but I'm being told that people have listened to the recording and that I said names that were responsible for that number. I wasn't here, so I apologize if I misstated anything to anyone. What I've been told since that meeting is that the grand list number that was signed had then been updated several times at the request of the town manager that was in place at the time to the assessor's office. So she kept updating the numbers as things were changing with the grand list. And the number that got put into the budget comparison was sometime in February or very beginning of March before the budget was finalized. So in normal practice of creating the budget, we just always go based off of the grand list that was signed. We don't change it based on adjustments that then get made afterwards. Just to be consistent, for whatever reason, it was requested by the town manager at the time to use the new number that had been given to them. And so that's what got put into the budget. So it wasn't any fault of anyone that had currently been in the finance office at all. It was a direct action from the town manager saying, put this number in. So I just wanted to clarify that because I was unclear at the last meeting exactly where that number came from because I wasn't here. So it came as a directive from the town manager at the time.
I did have a copy of that updated grand list memo from the assessor's office.
Yeah.
I think I brought that to your attention when we were talking about. I
Yes,
think that was maybe not March, excuse me, August, September meeting that I mentioned that was the updated one. So I
Yeah.
understand where the mishap or miscommunication came from. So
Yeah.
no worries.
so I just wanted to clarify that so nobody felt like it was anyone's fault or whatever, or the numbers were wrong or whatever. This year for 2025, we'll be going by the signed grant list number. That's what we'll be going by. Okay, so for January, our total revenues are at 94.7% compared to 88.6% from last year at this time. We are projecting, and I did projections this time, Counselor Merritt. We're projecting an additional 597,000 in revenue, and that is based upon 797,000 estimated additional interest on investments, and then a negative 200,000 because our police special duty fund has been running in a deficit for years, I have discovered in doing the audit process. So in our budget, we typically allocate 200,000 to be transferred from the special duty fund back to the general fund as revenue. And we should not be doing that if we're running in a deficit, so.
So question about the special duty. So is that like when contractors hire off-duty officers to, and we pay them for being there and they didn't pay us back for overtime and whatever it costs?
Well, it's not that they didn't pay us back. We do have some receivables out there that we have yet to collect. But that's not why, like I went back to, actually my staff, Erica, went back to just look at 2023, the amount we paid out to the officers in overtime special duty and the amount that we collected was not a deficit. But when we then take 200,000 more from that bucket and move it to the general fund, we're now in a deficit. So it's not, I don't want you to think the deficit is that we're not collecting from these vendors. We are. Like I said, there is an aging list. I want to say it's somewhere around $50,000. I actually have a meeting with my staff Thursday or Friday to look through the aging report and see what other efforts we can make to try and get some of these older things cleared up. But it's not.
Okay. What's the process? Do they pay before we hire the police officer or after?
After.
And then what happens if they don't pay? Do we send it to a collection agency? What, like?
We have not up to this point. That's something we can certainly consider. I'd like to take a stab because since I'm new and I'm just kind of getting involved in this specific item now, I'd like to take a stab at it first and see where I can get with the 50,000. A lot of the 50,000 is more current. It's not even like older stuff. So I've got to get a better grasp on how old are these things? How many times have we tried to contact them? How are we contacting them? That type of stuff. So I need to meet specifically with the staff who's in charge of doing that now. That was a change that was made just, I think, shortly before Erica and myself were hired. I think the finance department at the time had changed the staff within the finance office who actually does this bill collecting. So that's why I want to meet and figure out, you know, how it's all being done and how we can make it better. But that's not why we're in a deficit. Yes.
And this is only private duty. This is not police officer town overtime. This is just private duty.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. Okay, tax collection rates are at 98.3 versus 97% this time last year. Interest on investments is up as expected. We've collected 1.1 million so far. And last year at this time, we had only collected about 318,000. So it's very much up as you all know. And we project that will continue going forward. That's that $797,000 projection is what we see for the end of this year. In addition, building demolitions and permits is at 1.2 million or 81.9% of budget, and it's up slightly from this time last year at 1.195. So it's up just slightly. We do expect that building permits will continue to be strong in 2025, so we're going to budget that way for it. So we feel pretty confident it will continue. Real estate conveyance tax is up. We've collected 617,000 so far compared to 469,000 last year. And actually, since I did this report, I got another email from the town clerk saying that we were getting another about 93,000, I think the email said. So, yeah, so that wasn't in my projection then, 93,000. Now we move on to expenditures. They're at 51.3 of the total budget compared to 58.3 same time period last year. And the expenditures include about a $2.4 million in encumbrances. As of now, there have been 6 retirees this year so far, and we had only anticipated, I think, about 2 or 3. So we do expect there will be a shortfall of about 21,000 in that line item for fixed charges due to all of the payouts for these retirees. And we're trying to do a good job of budgeting for it in 2025. We've had meetings with HR to kind of take a look at who we have on staff and who would be eligible for retirement and try and make sure we have a budget for that for 2025. We have a projected additional savings of about 1.5 million that is from many factors like the hiring freeze, as well as turnover of employees that may have been here for a while, making a higher salary. Now the people that we hire in, because they're new, going to be making lower salaries. So we've got some savings with some of that, or just even the fact that we can't fill the positions fast enough. So it probably won't affect until 2025, most of them. There's also noted 225,000 of savings because we didn't need to do a second bond sale for the library project, and that was budgeted for in the library project. So there's that savings. Did you have a question before I keep
I have
going?
a question related to that. Is that 225 savings and that 1.5 million?
I think so. Hold on one second. Yes, it is.
So 225, so that's not an additional to the 1.5?
No.
No, okay, perfect.
No,
Okay, you're just breaking out what's,
I just pointed it out because it was budgeted for and,
got it, thank you.
yep. So the fund balance for fiscal '23, which is still an estimate because we don't have finalized numbers, it's estimated to be at 19.17%, and that will change because I've already made adjustments in the system since I created this report. So it will change, but it exceeds the council's goal of 16.5%. So far, in '24, if all the projections hold steady, we would be at 21.01% for fund balance. I don't expect that probably will happen, but I had to throw that out there as a, because it's just a projection. And that's all I have to report on that.
Question for me. Can we go to the expenditures, the expenditure sheet where it says estimated, it's the 630 unaudited,
Oh, okay, yeah.
where it says 2.5 million for use of fund balance for this year. We didn't allocate 2.5 million from fund balance for this year. I think it was somewhere near $900,000. What was it, 250,000 for fund balance at the bottom? When you look at the budget.
This is in total, so this has to do with, hold on one second.
Because I think I think it was somewhere near I think we decreased, I'm in the unaudited 630. Yeah, at the bottom, it says 2.5 million budgeted use of a Sun Fund balance for the fiscal year. We didn't use 2.538 million to balance. That's the unappropriate. That's what we use at the end of the year to balance the budget if any deficits are running. I think we brought that number down significantly this year? Go ahead, Deb.
Okay, we had budgeted 195,000 for general fund balance. We had budgeted 1.7 million assigned fund balance for capital.
Oh, yes.
And we had budgeted 621,000 from assigned fund balance debt service. So when you add all those together, that's what that is.
Got it.
So,
Do you think we're going to use the unassigned fund balance debt and unassigned fund balance capital? Because I wanted to use it in the previous year's budget. Because those are, I think, reimbursements from the school construction. And then I think that was some money that Carrie found for capital a long time ago from projects that was not completed, that she put in that special revenue.
yeah, Nancy and I are meeting, it's either Thursday or Friday this week, to talk about budget, part of it being capital. And we are going to look at just that, how much in prior years have been designated for certain projects that haven't even been touched yet. Can we reappropriate, I shouldn't say we, you decide to reappropriate that to different projects or to balance general fund or whatever. So we are taking a look at that. I don't honestly know what that number is right now. Do I think we're going to use the whole 2.5 million? No, I don't. There'll probably be some savings in capital. I don't know about debt, if there will be, but I can get back to you on that.
'Cause for our debt, we have the bond premium that we're going to get for $1 million, which will offset the increase of $1 million for our budget. So if we're having, I estimate, I'd hate to throw these numbers out, but I see almost like maybe 2 million plus, close to 3 million, 2.5, 2.6 million, if my numbers are right, and savings for this year, if everything stays the same. So if we have those budgets from hiring freezes and other budgetary savings from spending, directors being conservative, I don't see us using the 2.5 million. So if you add that 2.5 million to the savings that we have somewhere near $4 million that.
Well, I think we probably will use some of the 2.5, which is why I hesitate to give you a number, because we haven't looked at that in detail as far as the capital and the debt. So let me get back to you on that.
Okay.
But it's possible we will have more.
Because April is the fourth quarter, right? So we are approaching the end of the third quarter. So we should have somewhat of a more crystal projections of what the last quarter of the fiscal year.
Well, these numbers are through January,
Okay.
not April.
Okay.
So we
Got
we
it.
have a couple
I'm
more months
just
to go.
stuck-
You're
yeah,
ahead
I'm
of
just-
us. You're ahead of us.
I'm just projecting for, budget season and some of the priorities that we have as a body and as a community, because, the guidelines said cut of 4.5, and I'm trying to mitigate some of that and help a little bit, but Counselor Lloyd.
And as you project, let's also project that there'll be departments coming forward with needs for personnel. And so calculate that as well, right, as a variable when you're thinking about the numbers that we may possibly be looking at, because there's a lot of vacancies throughout the town and new positions, not just ones where we're replacing a body and changing the name on the roster. So we also have to definitely keep that in mind, because there's a lot of needs throughout the town. So you're really good with the numbers, but you like to be like on point. So we got to think about that as well, and really do a fair assessment of the needs for staffing and some other critical projects and stuff.
Well, I would hope that these savings that we have translate to the taxpayers, because
Indeed.
things are getting tight, right,
Yep.
for families and people in this community. And so I know early on, I took some heat for some of the measures that we took in the first and second quarter of the year, but as a body, we're starting to see the fruits of our labor, and I hope that we will still be fiscally responsible and conservative as we move to the end of the fiscal year, and hopefully send some of these savings to our residents, because they need it more than ever.
Right. I bought tap shoes, don't worry. Gotta dance.
Thanks, Deb. Any questions for Debbie? If not, we will move to public comment. Their public,
Thank you.
Mr. Goff.
Hi,
And then state your address.
well,
Kevin Goff, 5 Bear Ridge Drive. I'll try to be brief. I've got a couple things. First of all, I would like to go back to the unassigned fund balance. This is the unassigned fund balance, so it shouldn't include the assigned fund balance. That just makes the budget balance. So I think that should be $195,000. We can talk about that. But I do want to, before I have a couple comments on the library that I want to make, but before I do that, I do want to ask one thing of the actuaries. Thank you for that presentation. It was great to finally get some clarity about what we are paying in post-retirement medical benefits. I asked that question a lot when I was on council, and never got the answer you gave today is wonderful. What I really would like to get some clarity about, it's not just one homogeneous whole. There are, at least on the town side, at least 2 groups of people. There are the union employees, and then there are the non-union employees. My understanding is, post-retirement health benefits are not ERISA protected benefits. And that's why you've seen lots of corporations either eliminate this benefit or do the other thing that you didn't talk about, which is go to giving retirees a pool of money each year, $1,000. You go out, buy your own MedSup, you go buy your own Medicare Advantage, whatever. So on the town side, we have those 2 sets of employees, and I am not conversant enough in union and labor law with respect to municipal employee unions to know what can and can't be done there, because yeah, they're certainly protected by a bargaining agreement when they're part of the union and employees. I don't know what happens afterwards. There's probably case law on that. But I do think that all of the employees that are not part of the union, those are not ERISA protected benefits. So that's not, that's a decision the town needs to make. On the school side, I think it gets even more complicated, because my understanding is the union employees, the certified employees, I guess the teachers, they moved out of the town's health benefits a couple of years ago. And they don't even belong to the health benefits. So I don't know how they can belong to the health benefits, and they don't belong to the pension system because they belong to the state pension system. So I don't even know how OPEB comes into play for them anymore. Then you have the administrators. Again, the administrators I don't think are a protected group. So I guess the one other thing, I'm very happy that you actually postulated potential changes here and how to move forward. I would suggest we move forward with your benefit is $1,000 a year or $1,500 a year. Go out and figure out if you want Medicare Advantage, if you want a Med-Sup plan, whatever. And you're completely right about when the attachment point changes for the pharmacy benefit. You have a stop loss type of thing, and that's aggregate and individual. So if you could to give these folks a better idea.
Mr. Goff, can you wrap up for?
Yeah, I am. If you could, take these and break them into sections to understand which employees you really have control over what to do with, that'd be great. So thank you for your presentation, though, because I thought that was excellent.
Can you wrap up the?
I can. I just want to make one comment about the library employee issue, which I was expecting a little more discussion about that tonight.
Can you do that at the next, your 3 minutes have expired, and unless there is any objections, do you want to, you want to extend?
I want to hear and get another 3 minutes. There's nobody else waiting to talk.
Okay, well, you can make a motion to do that, but as the chair, I have to follow the rules. If you want to make that motion, you can make the motion.
Suspend the rules and give them another 3 minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not going to take 3
Sorry.
minutes. I want to make it clear, I'm very happy to give the library, all the town functions need whatever employees they need to function properly. There's no question about that. And I think that's one of the things been a little hard about the fiscal responsibility you guys have shown in trying to not hire a lot of people. And I remember Councilor Lloyd making the comment that we don't want to hire people and find out we get into a difficult budget and have to get rid of them. And I think that's admirable. The one thing, though, that does concern me about the library, because I've been hearing lots of talk about hiring at the library and staffing. I look back at the budget from last year, and there's no real discussion about how many employees are needed while we're in swing space versus while we are running 2 libraries. Now we're at the situation in this year's budget where we're going to be, we're going to be coming up with potentially reopening the Winbury branch of the library. All of this plays in. And I would just like to see a more detailed presentation of what services are currently provided and what's needed, because I have no problem with doing what we need to, but we need to see those numbers. So, thank you.
Councilor Lloyd?
I was going to say, I think we'll see a deeper dive on what you're looking for from the library and other departments as they make their budget presentations coming up in March and early April. I'm looking forward to all of that information from all departments as well.
Great. Okay, is there any additional public comment? Councilor Cooper?
Good evening. Thank you so much, Chairman.
I don't know if you're on screen, but we see your beautiful,
Yes, my swing space in New York. Let me see if I can, I'm sorry. So I just want to make a quick comment about the library, and certainly want to thank everyone, to ensure at least that there is this one position that will be coming on board. And the reason I say that is because I've heard that there is a push to get the Munis system to make it a similar system being used by, of course, the Board of Education and the town side of business. And so, in essence, this position, I believe, is going to replace someone who did that work for the library system. And so, in saying that, I just want, folks to know that there are some crucial positions that, in our different town departments. And of course, I always advocate for the library, but we want to ensure that people have the tools they need to get the information to the town into a system so that we're all working as one. And so, whether it be for the library or whether it be for the senior services unit, which also, we're hoping to have an initiative where those books will be given to senior citizens who are shut-ins. That's just another piece to all of this, and I just want everyone to have some input into this, certainly from my colleagues, counselors, and everyone brings that sort of thing to the table. We just need to, I just want to ensure that we do have some synergy going with how these positions are done. But, tonight is just really a thank you from me that at least we're filling one, which is a crucial position. And so, looking forward to what's next. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Any additional comments from members of the public? No, we got minutes. Okay, all right. So, okay, so is there a motion for the approval of January 18th, 2024? Moved by Councilor Merritt, seconded by Councilor Waterhouse. Any discussions? Moved by Councilor Waterhouse, seconded by Councilor Merritt. Is there any discussions? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion to adjourn. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to the presenters and town staff. Great job tonight.